All right. Your assignment today is to begin exploring graphite using the pencil and the kneadable eraser that you have just been given. Okay. So your kneadable eraser is brand new. It's a little square and it's wrapped in plastic. Mine is not brand new. I have used it before, and you can see that my kneadable eraser is pliable. It will change shape depending on how I want to use it. Okay, more on that in a little bit. You're going to need your regular number 2 school pencil. Okay, I'm going to use my mechanical just so you can see that that's the pencil that I'm using. You can use whatever kind of regular pencil that you have. You don't want to use your drawing pencil for contour line drawing. You do just want to use a regular pencil for any contour line drawing that we do. You're going to do this right in your sketchbook. So you're going to take your ruler. My sketchbook here is a little wider than yours. Your paper is about 9 inches wide. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler and you're going to take your regular pencil, and what you're going to do is just trace around. So I'm just simply tracing around the ruler at 9 inches. And then I'm going to make a little tick mark every 1 inch. What that will give me is 9 boxes. I'm going to slide my ruler down. 9 boxes. So remember, we talked about working in 10 to 12, a value range of 10 to 12. We're going to first practice here with 9. Mostly because it is the right size for your piece of paper. If you want to push yourself and try to grab a couple more values, you could go the long way on your sheet. The value scale does not have to go side to side. It can easily go up and down as well. All right, so that's going to be value scale number 1. Okay, if you remember back to the PowerPoint on value at the top of that first screen, there were 2 value scales. One that looked like this and it had separate boxes, and the other one that was just as long but not quite as wide. So I'm going to make a line, and then I'm going to have it be about as wide as my finger. So I'm just going to make a second line here, and a start and a stop. All right, that's going to be our second value scale, and that value scale is going to be just gradual, like a fade from as dark as I can get my pencil to as light as I can get my pencil. This top one is going to be as light as I can get my pencil. I'm not going to leave a box white because remember, we want to work from 10 to 12 and I can see the white here. So I'm going to have this guy be as light as I can get it. The white box will be just the paper in general that's all the way around my value scale. So I don't have to worry about leaving this end one white. So you'll notice, like I said, I used my regular pencil to do this because the lines are lighter. If I need to change something later, I can. So this is kind of a back and forth that you always want to get in the habit of. You're going to need a regular pencil, and that can be a mechanical pencil or just a yellow school pencil like I have laying here above my sketchbook, and you're going to need your drawing pencil. Now, I've given you a drawing pencil and an eraser, and those are your responsibility to keep track of. Okay, I will have no extras available for you in the class. If I lose my drawing pencil, I have to replace my drawing pencil. Okay, there are a couple of ways you can do that. Way number 1, you can go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby and you can buy yourself a drawing pencil. It's going to cost you probably like $2.75 if you can get one all by itself. All right, sometimes the only way you can buy one of these guys in a art or like a craft shop like that is to buy a whole set, and then it's going to cost you quite a bit more. Otherwise, you have to buy one from me, and they're $1. Okay, so $1 if you lose your pencil to replace your pencil, 50 cents if you lose your eraser to replace your eraser. So you have your folder where we've been keeping our drawings. And it is my recommendation that you put this pencil in your art folder along with your eraser. You can kind of squish the two of them together so you can see my pencil. You can see I'm shutting this book. I can get my pencil to stick to the inside of my folder with my kneadable eraser so that I'm sure that it's going to be safe and in my folder every single day when I come to class. This is actually a horrible pencil to do other classes homework with because it, remember, makes these nice heavy dark marks and they're really hard to erase. So if you're in a math class or something like that and are using a drawing pencil, it's just really a waste of all that extra graphite that's gone into the drawing pencil. So remember, we're going to work with smooth value, right? And there are a couple of things that we have to watch out for. One, remember, I don't want to press too hard too fast because that activates all the binder in my pencil. The other thing, and so I want to think about working in layers. So I'll know that this isn't going to be as dark as I'm going to need it to be, and I'm going to have to come back and darken it once or twice to kind of get that full value that I need. You'll also notice that as I'm shading this, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth. The reason we do that is to achieve a nice even value. So even here, if I go diagonal, so you can see a second layer of graphite on there. And it's starting to get a little shiny, but it's not horribly shiny like when I pushed really hard up there. But you can also see the difference between 2 layers of graphite and 1 layer of graphite. You can kind of see my diagonal line. So that's the reason why I bounce back and forth. If I decide that Mrs. Hughes is kind of crazy and this is a waste of time, and I can do this faster by just going down to the bottom and doing stripes, you can quickly see what happens. We call this a rainbow band, right? This is where there are 2 layers of graphite. This is where there's 1 layer of graphite. And you can see the value difference, all right? Layers in your pencil matters. So we want to make sure that we're not adding layers that we're not in control of. So I'm going to come along here and I'm going to shade alongside. And now I have the extra job of trying to smooth out this value that I thought that I was being so sneaky to rush and fix, okay? You'll also notice that as I kind of bounce back and forth, I'm going to switch to this next one and try to make it just a little bit lighter while I talk. You'll also notice that as I bounce back and forth, it looks a lot like I am working in straight lines. I'm not working straight back and forth. That makes part of the challenge with working in graphite, of course, and not smudging it is to learn to perfect this smooth application, okay? So you guys are gonna shade all the way down the box. This smooth application of value. So if I work in straight lines, what happens is that I will have a linear quality. So that's me shading with straight lines. So straight lines will give us this kind of messy quality. What I'm doing instead that looks like straight lines is loops. So if I push my paper, that's actually what I'm doing when I shade, is soft circles or loops. And that will give you a better smooth value. So all of these things are things that we're practicing as we're working with our pencil, okay? So back and forth, I'm controlling that edge. I'm making sure that each box that's in my value scale is getting gradually a little lighter I always start at the darker end of my value scale. And the reason for that is that if I get to here and I'm already making my pencil as light as I can possibly get it, I can always come back and darken all my values. If I start at the lightest one and make it to here and I'm going as dark as I possibly can already, there's no way for me to make 4 more darker. And it's almost impossible to erase really dark drawing pencils. So we want to make sure that we are starting at the dark end and working towards the light end, because that's the easier way to adjust the value. And that's kind of a habit that we'll get into as we move into working with objects as well, that we want to make sure that we're working from our dark to our light. So you can see I went back and adjusted that one. I want to make sure that each of these is just a little bit lighter. As I move into the lighter tones, you'll notice that I move my hand back on my pencil. The reason for that is now when I press down on my pencil, I'm pressing down as mostly into the table. If I get all the way over here, I can just let the pencil, so just the weight of the pencil itself. So I'm not pressing down at all. I'm just letting the pencil slide along the surface of the paper. You'll also notice that I hold my pencil at an angle. That increases the surface area that I'm using to shade so that I'm not getting a scratchy effect. Remember the pencil from before, my 6B pencil here? I've been making drawings with this pencil for ages. You can see it's got this nice flat spot on the bottom. This is a perfect shading pencil. I wait as long as I possibly can to sharpen my pencils when I'm making a drawing. Because a dull pencil or a flattened out pencil will always make a better gray than a pencil that's really sharp. It's also easier to control any kind of stripy effect that happens. So we want to make sure that we're working neatly. We shouldn't see any scribbles. You can kind of see that those are a little different from each other. I'm going to kind of see if I can meet up with this other side now. And again, you guys will want to finish your whole square. You don't need to watch me do a whole square. And then I'll show you how the Kneadable Eraser works. So if I decide that these are going to be the same color or the same value, or if this one gets a little too dark, I can take my Kneadable Eraser and I can just push it straight down onto my paper and peel it up. And it's just like if you guys, when you were a kid, if you've ever played with silly putty, it peels the graphite right up off the paper. All right, I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to have to go back and darken a few of these. I can tell already. I also need to hold my pencil back a little further so that I can get that lighter graphite. Less pressure. It's easier to control the pressure on your pencil when you're holding your pencil back more like a paintbrush and less like, you know, English or math homework. So if I'm doing math homework or English, or if I'm writing a letter to somebody, I'm going to hold my pencil like this. If I'm shading, I'm going to hold my pencil like this. So you can see just even using the pencil is different in an art class than in regular school. Okay, so I'm going back. I'm going to give all of these just a little bit more value so I can extend down here. I want these to be as different as I can get them, but I think I'm going to have to darken all of them to make that happen. So you can kind of see it's a back and forth process to make sure that as we work, we're getting nice, accurate value. These two are very close to the same still. There, you're a little better. So there you go, 9 values. This bottom one gonna be the same, but without the squares. That's why we made it skinnier. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to shade along the length. So I'm gonna hold my pencil back and I'm going to work controlling my pressure so the values will match It's just the format will be different. So you can kind of see, gonna work a little bit at a time to make this one be darker at the bottom, but as smooth as possible. So here you can kind of see a little bit where I am doing circles or soft loops, and we're gonna have to come back and layer this. So again, I don't want to go just straight up and down. I'll end up with those weird like rainbow stripes that is really hard to get rid of. But instead, I'm just gonna work a little bit at a time and work my way up and down along the whole length of my value scale, making sure that I'm making it a little lighter each time as I go. And I'm also making sure that I'm gonna try to fix any areas that start to feel a little messy or scratchy. So you can see I can come back and do another layer. Remember, the layering is what gives us darker graphite without the shine. Okay, so we can't rush when we do graphite drawings. We have to work in light layers. We have to go back over the top of our work so that we can deepen that value range and make that darker without activating all the binder in our pencil and making that pencil drawing super, super shiny. Always it'll be a little metallic in effect, just because graphite is a little metallic in effect, but we can minimize that effect by working in layers instead of pressing down too hard, too fast, and just making it all a shiny, shiny mess. So you can kind of see, continuing to go back and forth and work my way along the length of this next value scale. Remember, as I need this lighter, I'm going to pull my pencil, pull my hand back, and just like let the weight of the pencil itself sit on the paper to achieve those lightest values. And then if I need to, I can always go back and I can lighten this just a little bit by dabbing on it with my Kneadable Eraser to just sort of lighten up that last little section that I maybe can't get quite as light as I want with one go of the pencil. So you can see I have this whole section here now that's very similar. So I'm going to work again to darken some of this. I'm looking up to the value scale above to kind of guide my gray, and going to continue to put a few more layers on this value scale so that my deeper grays darken. Now this all does take practice. I have done this many, many, many times. So I can do this faster than probably you guys can be able to do this. So take your time, make sure that your value is changing gradually, that your values are different in each box. We're looking for, gradual value change, different grays, no scribbly marks, no liney pencil, and no smudging. Okay, so different grays, smooth value, no scribbles, and above all, no smudging. Control your value with just pressure and layers. So working in value is all about pressure and layers. Okay, you guys can go ahead and give this value scale a try.